Happy 2026. Happy Wednesday night, and welcome to A Look on the Plus Side. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. We so appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you should. It's called the Park Adventurers Club. It's free. You just click subscribe, and we've got a lot of great content. We'll tell you about more stuff coming up at the end here. But tonight, we're going to be reviewing the 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If you haven't already, as well, give us a like as it helps people to find us. We would love to have you because we're live. If you're live with us here, welcome. Please talk with us in the chat. We would love to get your vibes, your thoughts. And with me tonight to talk about this masterpiece is my good friend Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you, Rob?
I feel like you're muddling through. I appreciate you. Dave is ready to talk about some Snow White. You actually chose this one. This is one that we had actually touched on a different situation that we had done a long time ago, but she is the fairest of them all. This is the one that started it all. I think that beyond the movie itself, it had such just an impact on what would become the Walt Disney Company. But just out of curiosity, when we were talking about what you'd like to review and you picked this, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking about why this one spoke to you as something you'd want to talk about?
I think, for me, being a lifetime fan of Disney, all things Disney, and especially, even of the parks, I think the parks are really, my true love. I love the movies, but, really, Snow White was what made it all happen. And it's just, to me, I love the fact that, well, we can get into the details of it, but I love the story of how Snow White was made, and just all the risks that were taken, all the uncertainty that was, on top of it, being during the Great Depression. And I just think it's a fascinating story. And it's probably one of the most interesting movie making stories that Disney has.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And not just Disney. I mean, think about this. This is kind of the one that built this company. Yeah. And when you go back and you look at, most movies, you don't look at the struggles that it took. Like Kevin Smith talks about putting clerks on credit cards to make it happen and things like that. And, just some of the fighting, that these folks have had to do to make their dreams come true. But none seem more famous of a journey than Walt Disney and the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs movie. So we're going to talk all about it from the conception, the idea, and all of that to getting into some of the movie itself. But it is a classic. I think it stands on its own as far as someone to review it. But I do want to talk about the history and how it got here and all that. But I will say for most movies that we do now, we do a thing called a stat board where we kind of run through all the numbers of the movie. And so this one has a runtime of an hour and 23 minutes, give or take. I mean, it depends on where you catch it. Catch the number. Some of it lean it more towards 90 minutes, some 81. So the release date was December 21st, 1937. So this was a Christmas joint that they released this one just in time for Christmas. Rated G, and the box office on it. Now that does look kind of overwhelming for a movie that came out in 1937, 418 million, but that is based on the idea that it's been released multiple times when Disney used to do that in the box office, and then the budget for it was 1.5 million, which seems like chump change anymore for a company like Disney. If they did 1.5 million, we'd say, well, why don't you care about this movie? Just 1.5 million? That's nothing. But he put everything he had into this, not just financially, but risked his reputation and so much more to get, and we'll get into that. But I was thinking about the re-release thing, Dave. I don't know if you're aware that Avengers Endgame is going to be re-released to theaters in the fall before Doomsday comes out. And I thought, it's been a minute since I saw that happen, really. I mean, I guess it happens every now and then, special events, or what's the name of that company that releases... like they do like live performances and stuff. I want to say it's like Fandom, but I don't. Maybe that's not that. But anyway, there are special events. But like, this seems like a big deal to re-release a movie in the world of like streaming and home video.
Yeah, no, I mean, supposedly they're doing the same thing with Star Wars. It's going to be the original theatrical release of Star Wars is coming out. which I'm super excited about because I was, I don't think I ever saw it in a decent theater back in the day. Not to get off subject, but I like the re-releases, to get in there and have the full movie experience and see it on the big screen, and that's really cool.
No, I mean, we're not off subject. I mean, we're talking about like, movies in general here with this one because again, it's the GOAT. It's the
Hmm.
first princess movie. It set the tone. It's the first, full-length animated feature ever. All of these things that happen with it. But with this movie in particular, and I think a lot of my Disney like, memories, there's like that Mandela effect of like I feel like I watched this at an early age, but I don't think I did. Like I think
Yeah,
it was like you said, going to the theme park and riding, Snow White's what was it? Snow
Scary
White's
Adventure
Scary
was it that was?
Adventures.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting it confused with the the new one, but yeah, Snow White's Scary Adventures in the park, and then like seeing like clips or those sing along videos, or when you'd go into the Disney store and they would have like it playing on the big like 9 screen thing behind Plush Mountain. I worked at the Disney store, and there was that scene where she's they're cleaning up the house, and
Hmm.
and she's like, and I'll grab the broom, and that whole thing is in my head from that, not from seeing it, but from that. So I think it's one of those things, kind of like when your parents tell you a story about when you were a baby and you feel like you remember it, but you don't remember it. It's just like,
Watching it, I thought to myself, and I'm not sure because it's I'm old and I remember it's not what it used to be, but I really thought to myself, I don't know that I've actually sat down and watched this entire movie from beginning to end before,
right.
which is crazy, because I felt like I know the story, I know every scene of the movie, I know all the songs, but I realized that I don't think I've ever had the full experience of watching it from credits to credits.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like there's a lot of those Disney movies that we've just seen clips
Hmm.
and
Yep.
ridden the rides and seen like the projection show at studios, or the animation film when they had the animation studio, and they're redoing that area at
Hmm.
Hollywood Studios, that animation courtyard. But when they had that animation tour, they had like sizzle reel style videos, and one of them had very clearly, I remember, the evil queen doing the whole "make a wish and take a bite." And like that to me is another one that's just like ingrained in my head, but not because I've seen this movie over and over again. I've only seen it probably all the way through, if I'm being honest, maybe 3 times. Because normally, if I'm
Yeah,
firing up Disney Plus, I'm going to look at something a little more modern.
yeah, yeah.
I may rewatch, My Girl Elsa. I may, it may be Tangled. I may be cramming because Zootopia 2 is coming out. I got to catch Zootopia 1 again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is weird. That's why I'm saying it's almost like a Mandela effect of like, oh yeah, we've seen this movie 100 times, but have
Yeah,
we?
yeah. I don't think I saw it nearly as much as I thought I had. I mean, obviously it's all very familiar, but yeah, I feel like I've seen it in pieces probably a million times. I could probably put them all together into the entire movie. So I've probably seen it technically quite a few times, but like beginning to end, that may have been the very first time.
Right.
I probably
Well,
I probably rode the ride in Disney World before I saw the movie.
I was going to ask that at some point. Yeah, like if
Yeah,
that had been a
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Because again, the ride at Disney World had the scene at the end. Now, Enchanted Wish, which is the new version at Disneyland, doesn't have this, but the ride at Disney World originally had the one where the evil queen is like trying to pull the stick and knock the stone over, and then she falls over the back. And again,
Oh
that's the
yeah,
first
yeah.
time I ever saw that was there. So,
Hmm, hmm.
uh, yeah, it's crazy. So this is based on the 1912 German fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. It was something that Walt Disney wanted to bring to life. He famously like storyboarded this and explained it to his animators, and they got into the whole like we want to do this full length animated feature. And up until that point, they had only been doing shorts, and he realized there wasn't enough money in that. He wasn't making the money that other movie companies were making because they were doing these full length movies and making much more than his shorts that might have been just tacked on to the beginning of theirs. And so he wanted a piece of that pie, and he wasn't doing live action. He wanted a piece of that in the animated world. He already had the animated, the reputation. And so he went in and did this thing that everyone was calling Walt's Folly. It's like, how who's going to want to do, sit through a almost 90-minute cartoon? And yet, as you watch it, it's still such a pattern for what we see today. Like if you compare this to then what was the next princess movie in 1950, which was Cinderella, or then the next one in 59, which was Sleeping Beauty. I mean, that was like Cinderella's a decade later plus, and it's still that same sort of animation, same sort of formula. And so it really was, like I said, sort of the blueprint for this. And so he has a note as it opens up, as the movie opens up, where he's just basically thanking people. Like, it's kind of like, we did it.
Yeah.
We made it happen. And so it's really neat to see that. What does throw me off though still, and I should be used to it by now, is the standard format.
Oh yeah.
Because it's
and that like like when when it comes on, you're like, oh, has this been formatted for television? And then you realize like that came later in movies. I forget that the widescreen thing was actually, that was an upgrade for movie theater. We talked about that when we talked about Bambi. It was something that happened well after the first several Disney movies. So yeah, I'm always taken back a little bit by the format.
Yeah. But again, it's one of those things where like I look at it and I go, how is this like possible? The same way I would, and I'm sure like my kids are completely thrown off about it. I just got an Atari 2600 retro for Christmas, and like putting those cartridges in and like explaining to my kids, this is all we had. This is it. It's kind of the same thing with the formatting, or when we were kids and like watching the black and white stuff going, what black and white? Like, why was there not color? So yeah, it's definitely one of those, things that you can tell is different. The other thing that's different about this one is that it starts with credits, which our attention spans in 2026 or such that we can't start a movie with credits anymore, really, unless you're telling a story with the credits rolling underneath. Just having an overture with credits, no, thank you. Like, and even now, like my attention goes, okay. Like even when we're watching this for a look on the plus side, I'm taking notes during that time, because I'm like, I'm not going to know any of these people. This cast is not a cast of people like that was famous to me, and so like as I'm watching through it, I'm like, okay. I mean, again, it's a long piece, but it's good because these people put a lot of effort into it. They should be showcased.
Yeah. Was there a Screenwriters Guild in 1937? And so
I wouldn't think so.
I was curious. I mean, because when up until like the Star Wars movies, that was, and well after, I know that was like the rule. If you were a member of the Screen Actors Guild, you had to have things in a certain order, and you had to have like certain credits up front before the movie started, and it was all these rules. And Star Wars was the first one to break it. 33. There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's it.
Yes. Star Wars.
Like
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that he, was going to abide by the Screen Actors Guild, even though it was a not a live action movie, it's pretty interesting. I don't know. Like, it's kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah. And again, it's a princess movie. I called it, but we didn't know it was a princess movie then. And our friend David in chat says that princess movies weren't really a genre until the Renaissance era. So when that would have been 89 when the Little Mermaid came out. It's like, okay, she's being lumped in with Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. It was sort of like the next princess movie. Which is what Disney was kind of known for in the 90s and the 2000s, which is why they were like, we need to not be that company anymore. Let's go buy Star Wars and Marvel. So when that was happening, though, like, that's a great point, David, is that like there wasn't a thing. We didn't know that she was the first princess, because there wasn't a whole line of them already, or a whole line ahead of them. It was just there. Like the first time we saw Iron Man, we had no idea the MCU was coming. Same thing.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
So anyway, it's that it is a princess movie. It's thrown in with the rest of the princesses. She is animated with the rest of the princesses in Wreck-It Ralph, and she's one of the squad, but she is the OG. But again,
it was kind of downplayed in the movie, though. Really, she's not like, it's she's out of the castle right there at the beginning of the movie, and it's done for her, and she's kind of in rags and everything, and she's not like the traditional what we think of as a princess like you saw in the 1990s.
Yeah.
She very much had a different role. She was kind of like a it just didn't seem like pivotal to the plot necessarily.
Yeah, and really, it's the Seven Dwarfs that continually bring it up and call her princess,
That's
um,
true. Yeah.
or female or woman. Grumpy being upset with her being a female was the thing that my wife, as we were watching it, kept going. Well, like I think there's a part where he says like females are poison or something like that. And she's like, "Wait, what did he say?"
I feel like Grumpy was overcompensating. He was secretly attracted to Snow White. He,
Sure.
he didn't want to admit it. He was covering it up with his grumpiness and pretending like he didn't like her. But clearly, he like there was that scene where they're going out to work and he gets the kiss and had a massive impact on his personality. So yeah, yeah, I
Well,
think he was just
and
covering
you
up.
and the movie is really more to me in a lot of cases about the dwarves. So there's a lot of character
Mm,
building in there. There's seven of them, and we need to
yep.
know them and learn who they are and their differences and all that. But there's a lot of it that is just kind of the dwarves, and because of that, there's a lot of what Walt and his animators refer to as just gags. And
Mm,
apparently, they wanted so many of these things because in a normal animated short there, especially before sound, there wasn't a necessarily a storyline. It was just a setting with a bunch of gags. It's like
mm,
Mickey's at a construction site, so it's like him, falling off of this or the balance beam thing with the wheelbarrow or whatever. So it was just a series of gags, and so I think because they still had that in them, they did a bunch of gags, and it was first with the forest animals and them cleaning and washing and how they would do it and all of that, and then it was like with the dwarves and how they were washing their hands or how they were fighting with each other over her. And so apparently Walt would offered like $5 a gag to anybody who could come and like get a gag that they would use in the movie. So they didn't get paid unless it went in the movie. But I think you could
What is
have
that in
cut this
today's
thing
money?
down.
Like, is $5 a lot in 1930? I mean, it's got to be a lot in 1937 money, right?
Sure, probably I would think at least $50, right?
It's got to be more than that. I'd love to know that. I should have looked that up. I saw that same stat. I saw one of
That's
the animators talking about because the animator that recommended there's a scene where the dwarves are at the foot of the bed before Snow White wakes up, and they're all
oh,
popping
and
up
that's
one at a time with their
right.
noses popping up. And he
Yeah.
was the one that came up with that, and he got his $5 because it made the movie.
Well, yeah, but again, I think they needed more because they're like, wait a minute, this is going to be a
Yeah,
90-minute movie. We got to have like a whole bunch of gags, but those things stretch it out, and you don't realize how much they stretch it
yeah,
out. And so for that, I feel like there's a lot more of them because like you
yeah,
don't do
yeah,
gags around Snow White. It's around the forest animals, or it's around
yeah.
it's around the dwarves. So yeah, definitely a thing. Hey, one of the things that I think people should always know is, do you know the seven dwarves names off the top of your head? This is not a trivia question. I'm just literally asking if you could just name them. Have you got a mnemonic device? Is there something you do?
I could name some of them.
You're
Let me
like
see.
you literally just
You, are, you,
watched
are
this.
you are you asking me or are you?
I'm asking. Well, you don't. Okay, let's go ahead and put you on the spot. Name them. Name the seven dwarfs.
All right. Sleepy, happy, dopey, Doc, grumpy, sneezy, bashful. How many is that?
5.
Oh, man, that's gonna be more than five, right?
So so here's the device that they taught us in Disney traditions, because I worked at
Okay.
Disney. They teach you to be a Disney cast member before they teach you how to do your job. And there were 2 D's, 2 S's, and 3 emotions. So it's dopey, doc, sneezy, sleepy, happy, grumpy, bashful.
I feel like I got all those.
You're like, "Ah, I nailed it." So if you think of the 2 D's, dopey and doc, and they're really the easiest ones to like identify. If
Yeah.
because Doc has just, I don't know, Doc and Happy, I guess, look a little bit similar, but you kind of know when it's Doc because of the
Yep.
way he looks,
Well, he's got the
and then
round glasses. Doc's got the round glasses, and yeah.
yeah, and then Dopey, of course, is Dopey. So it's Dopey, Doc, Sneezy, Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Bashful, and it's usually Like Happy, Bashful, and Sleepy are the three that I think most people forget. Sneezy's got a bit. He's got a gag. The whole like sneezing and the wind going everywhere. So you're never going to forget Sneezy. But Sleepy, Bashful, and Happy are like Happy is very generic. Like they're all except for Grumpy kind of happy.
That's true. I love that when you say all their names, it's almost musical. You know,
Dopey, Doc, Sneezy, Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Bashful. Yeah.
I feel like that's a song. Waiting to be made.
Yeah, I love to tell the story that I was on a radio junket and with a bunch of grown-ups, not me, right? And we were there to see the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train when it first opened up, and the guide there was like, "Who can name the Seven Dwarfs?" And I'm just like, "Dopey, Doc, Sneezy, Dopey, Doc, Sneezy, Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Bashful," and he's like. So I'm thinking maybe they don't teach that in traditions anymore. I don't know, but it's definitely a good party trick if you're anywhere is to ask people that, because I don't think that most people would remember that, but they probably feel, again, Mandela effect. They feel like they do. They're like, I
want to get the replay and see how many I named.
See how many you actually did.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did 7.
You probably did. You were great. By the way, the $5 in reference to that, Care Bear, who's in chat, said, "Remember, this would have been during the Great Depression as well, so $5 would probably have been a big deal."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd take $5 now for a gag. Yeah.
So anyway, jumping into the whole idea of the inflation, like this is a big time movie. Most everybody knows about this movie in its existence, and whether you've seen it or seen parts of it, I don't know. But by today's standards, it would be $2.2 billion that would have made with adjusted gross over time. But again, it's at 418 million instead. So. Yeah, definitely a very successful movie. I know that when you go back and you recount by, adjusted for inflation, movies like Gone with the Wind, and those are always up there. I always note that for an animated movie, at least back in the day before geeks like us would go to the theaters and see them without kids, the movies were always matinees that parents were taking their kids to at kids' prices. And so even that box office would not be as big as something like, say, Titanic, where that was a date movie and everybody was going out on Saturday and Friday nights and paying full price. You would have been paying kids' prices at matinees. So
that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Wow.
You're welcome.
That's crazy.
You're welcome.
Staggering stat, Rob.
That's why I'm here, buddy. That's why we do this. That's why we do this. So let's talk about the music, because the music is, again, it's quintessential here, right? Because as park goers, as park lovers, a lot of this music is stuff that we will hear in the parks. It'll be on the projection, shows and the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. Is there one of them that stands out to you as like iconic from this? Because there are many.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always "Whistle While You Work." I mean, to me, that one is the most recognizable. It's been used in so many. It's in The Ride, and it's just, I don't know. It's the best sing along song in the movie, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I think it's the most standout from the movie.
Yeah. Well, and of course that's done while she is breaking and entering.
There's some shady stuff in this movie.
You know what? I think so. It came out a few years ago, especially it was during the time when it was. I think it was post COVID, right? Right around COVID. It was actually maybe just pre-COVID that they opened Snow White's Enchanted Wish. It was right around that time. I can't remember if it was closed and they didn't open it till after COVID, I think is what happened now that I'm thinking about it. And so they had started working on it before COVID happened. Then Disneyland itself was closed for over a year. I think, was it 18 months? It was a long time. And then because, Florida was like, we'll wait 30 days and then we'll let you back in. But when it opened, there was a lot of scandal about the whole, they've recreated the kiss that wakes sleeping or Snow White up. It's sort of a Sleeping Beauty tale, right? The kiss that wakes her up, and like, oh, that's a non-consensual kiss. Well, there was no consent in her going into this house.
That's true. There's
all kinds of rules being broken here. I'm just saying.
I mean,
So
I feel like in is it Prince, right? So in the Prince's like defense, I mean, for all intents and purposes, she was in a coffin and she was dead. So I
it was
mean,
just his kiss goodbye, right?
like how are you going to consent if you're dead?
Yeah, true. And thank goodness she that happened because spoiler alert, she wakes up. Um, but
I feel like being dead is consent is the same as consent.
yeah. All right, so all right, let's move away from that. Let's just
Yeah.
back away
Okay.
from
All right.
that,
Sorry.
and then talk about the
Sorry.
music again. So like, the "We Dig Dig Dig" song I
Mm,
always thought was different from Hi Ho, but it's the same song. It's just a different piece of it, right? Like it's like,
mm, yeah.
in the middle of it, it's all of a sudden the Hi Ho song. Um, I love that in the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train attraction at Magic Kingdom. The
And
fact that you
yeah.
can go into the mine with them, and when I say the mine, I want to go in the mine, like where a million diamonds shine. That's where you want to be. So to me, like that one to me is sort of quintessential because of thinking of the dwarves and how much they are part of this. But um, that one song, which is called One Song, that she sings with the prince, is kind of like their meetup. Like this is where they kind of fall in love in these 8 seconds or whatever it is when they're around the when she's
More shady stuff. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
exactly. He saw her. He decided to climb over the fence and get all up in her face with the the wishing well.
Yeah.
So so that one song is the name of that one. I'm not really sure that that one is one that I think of a lot. The I'm wishing
Yeah.
is one, but again, it's not really. It doesn't get into that as much as Whistle While You Work is like it's a whole song. And a lot of these
Yep.
others are just kind of like hints of songs. With a Smile and a Song was very much lesser known to me.
Mm.
And then the Hi Ho is definitely to me again like iconic from this. But again, a lot of good music.
Yeah. I was surprised how much music was in it. How much of the movie was music? Because it was at points. There was very little dialogue, and it just kind of went from song to song, and like there would be a little action sequence and then another song, and there's surprisingly little dialogue, especially from Snow White.
Well, and the dialogue that's there is in verse, which drives me bananas.
Huh. I don't know that I even picked up on that.
Yeah. Um,
Huh.
yeah. So it's just it happens a lot in these older movies, especially if there's not a lot of dialogue, is that they're kind of in verse, especially if they were based on a book. And so that the speaking that is there is usually in verse,
Huh.
which also helps them lead into a song pretty easily. But, I'm hearing the word and then I'll hear the word that rhymes with it and I'll go, but I mean, it's a musical, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because like you were saying,
I
there's
mean,
more music in it than you expected.
yeah, it technically is. Is there like what 7 or 8 songs in the movie? I mean, you figure for that short of, and it was also interestingly, it was the first movie to ever release a soundtrack on vinyl.
Yeah. That's a good, like ever? Like more,
Ever, first one ever
wow.
of any kind. Yeah.
That's kind of
Also, the
amazing.
first movie to have, here's another trivia piece for you. The first movie to have merchandise for sale on the day of release.
I can see that. That's a good point because I know that after Mickey came out, everyone wanted Mickey stuff, and there wasn't
Mhm.
Mickey stuff. You know when
They had,
when Frozen came out, there was no Frozen merch, and it
really?
was obnoxious because my daughter
Huh.
was of an age where she would have loved to have had an Elsa doll, and there was like nothing.
Huh. Like, how does Disney miss that? And
They don't
when
anymore.
that, yeah,
They
no.
just put out way too much stuff, and yeah, no, they don't miss the trick anymore. Um, yeah. So, I honestly I love collecting vinyl now, and so I think I might have a Snow White like a picture disc or something. Obviously a re-release
Really?
at some point, but yeah.
That's
I
cool.
love vinyl that is like colored vinyl. I know Taylor Swift does a lot of that, but you would know that. You're a
Yeah.
Swiftie, but I buy a
Oh,
lot of yeah.
man.
Like I bought the Tron Ares soundtrack, which is weird because it was two versions. It was the main color is red, but there was two versions. There was black vinyl, just normal vinyl, and then there was white vinyl. So I got
Oh,
the
wow.
white one. So yeah,
That's really
interesting.
cool. I love colored vinyl too. I didn't have that. I don't collect it anymore, but I used to, and I used to have it. Like when you got one of those, they were much rarer when I was young, but it was so exciting to like get one of those. I think I had like there was a Prince Purple Rain purple vinyl disc that I had. That was very
Ooh,
cool.
ooh, you had me there. I'm a big Prince
It
fan,
was
so
it was like it was like a 12-inch long play of Purple Rain. Then purple, very cool.
yeah. Well, thank goodness they broke it out for for Stranger Things. They played some Prince stuff. Um, I want to get back to this movie.
That's a good idea.
I know.
Let's talk about Snow White.
Yeah. So here they lock up, and Dopey is in charge of locking up their jewels for the day, and then he goes and he puts the key right next to it as if it's
Oh,
like
Dopey.
some jail cell, and it's just like, what? That's not very secure. But the reason that I love this scene is it has, like I said, hi ho, it's home from work we go is played here in this particular setting. And when they come around that corner with the shadows and then they head over this log, this to me is just visually, this is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is it. Like the masterpiece of the animation, the masterpiece of the waterfall, and and them marching, and they're all different. They're not all the same character. He's running behind. This is it. Like, this is the moment to me. And I know there's a lot of other scenes in here that are very visually iconic and memorable, and just known throughout the land. But that one in particular, that scene really gets me as part of, like, this is it. Like, when I did the thumbnail, I almost, like, I was like, I want to find that picture and make it work. I ended up not going with that one. I ended up just going with this one because they're all happy. Look at that.
That's cute. That's cute.
But I was like, that scene to me is iconic. Is there a scene in the movie to you like that stands out? You're like, oh, this is Snow White and the
Yeah.
Seven Dwarfs to me.
Uh, that's definitely one. I think another one is when she's not a witch. I call her a witch, but when the witch is has the apple and she's about to hand it to Snow White and make a wish, and that's it. Like, she's so evil and mean in that moment, and that look of her handing that over was so iconic to the movie.
Yeah.
But of them, like, I agree with you though, like them coming out and crossing that log, that shot from the front where all seven of them are lined up there. I mean, that's about as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as you can get.
Yeah, this was
That's
the
it.
scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I was
that's
trying to get
like,
that one, and then it goes right into them fighting with the animals. Where
it's
the
such a
animals are
classic
trying to get them.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and I use that as a quote in tonight's show. Is that now make a wish and take a bite? Because I think that it is something very memorable for that. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. I love talking with you, and I love talking, like, seeing everybody in chat. And I see Fire Chief and Care Bear, Benjamin, Ronald, Troy, TSN 6899. If I missed you guys here, thank you guys for being with us tonight. I saw David Lung earlier in there. We appreciate you being here live with us, and we'll talk a little bit more about our pack, our Park Adventurers Club, and also what's coming up soon. But usually I like to stop down in the middle and make Dave super angry and ask him 5 questions about a movie he just watched. Look how happy he is already. Look how happy he is to be talking about this right now. Right? You're so excited. I can tell you're so excited, Matt. My
let's
friend,
go.
we have been friends for so long, and I think that the more I do this, the more you hate me. So,
Yeah, that's pretty much accurate.
pretty much accurate.
Ask my wife. Katie, Katie's
Yeah.
my wife. Ask her sometime about my comments about those trivia questions.
Oh, I think the ones that drove you crazy were the Cars ones, right?
Oh yeah, no, like asking me the number when I'm sitting there with the number literally on my shirt. So no excuses, no excuses. I should have known. I should have known.
You're such an angry little elf. Okay, so we did this, like I said, a long time ago in another world, and so this is like the pack version. So I had those questions. I'm like, not gonna ask those questions. I'm gonna ask different questions. This is my buddy Dave. We're gonna do this right. So here are the questions that I want to ask you. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Right. No, but go ahead anyway.
Dude, you were so ready. You were so ready for this. And again, we would love it if you guys who are in the chat will play along. You don't, we're a little delayed, so you may not give him the answer. But
well,
anyway.
I don't have the chat up, so I can't cheat. So don't bother trying to tell me what the answer is. So
perfect. All right. So the first question is: this movie opens up with a book. It's a book about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it opens up and it tells the story, and we see a few pages of the book in the text, and it kind of tells us that is not so that's how it starts out. The book, it has seven Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs on the cover, like written out. What's at the bottom of this book?
Oh, let me think. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
You could probably puzzle this out, but I just figured.
Golly, at the bottom of the cover.
Yeah, of the cover. The bottom of the cover. It's on the cover, but at the bottom of the cover. Not like nearby or anything. It's just, it's on the cover.
I really feel like I should know this because I was really studying the cover too. When it came on, I was like, oh, this is live action. I'm curious about how they're turning the book covers, so I was really paying attention to like how they were actually getting the book to open and turn the pages. Yeah. And I have no idea.
It's the dwarves.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, there they are.
That was not even on my radar. You could have given me all night.
Well, that's why I kind of gave you the hint that like you could maybe find it through context, but maybe not. So here's what you're saying is that like as it opened up, you were like, this is where your attention was drawn, right?
Yeah.
Look how freaking slow that was, dude.
I know, right? And it's kind of uneven. They actually kind of like struggle a little bit with opening it like smoothly. There's like a little hitch in it if you watch at the beginning when they're opening the cover part.
Are you saying there's a hitch in their giddy up?
No.
Okay. No, not saying that at all. No. Speaking of books that open up the movies. Speaking of books. Okay. There are a ton of Disney movies that open with a book. Name 3 others.
Oh,
that
come
open with
on.
a book. Name
That's
2
an
others.
Unfair question. That's an
Name
unfair
2 others.
question.
You mean because it has nothing to do with this? I mean, I feel like you would have thought about that though, right?
No.
Name 1 other that opens with a book.
All right, give me a second.
I'm sorry. I literally thought that was I thought that was such an easy question. I apologize.
Are you drinking Jack Daniels? No, okay.
Sometimes I need a hit to get me through. You know what I'm saying?
Like a bottle of Jack when you first picked it up. Like, where'd you get that cute little bottle of Jack? That's cute.
You do what you got to do to power through. You know that. Come on.
Yep. I don't know, Rob. Can you tell me through? You're shaking a little bit. Oh, Pinocchio. Okay.
The Wind in the Willows, Mr. Toad.
Right.
That one. Cinderella. Sleeping Beauty.
Never gotten any of these.
Sword in the Stone. Jungle Book. Now, come on. It's in the name.
I should have known Jungle Book.
It's in the name.
Because I've seen that so many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin Hood. I don't think I've ever seen Robin Hood. I'm ashamed to say. Yeah, I know. Judge me. Go ahead.
Oodle lolly. Golly, what a day. The day I found out that David never seen.
Good music. I know the music. I just haven't seen the movie.
I love the fire chief keeps track of how the scoring is going, and now he's added commentary. Now he's added commentary. It says, "Dave's 0 for 2. The ship is sinking."
Man, this is brutal. Why do I come on the show?
Ooh, we have fun. We have a good time. Dave.
Yep.
When the queen is talking to her mirror, she says, blank, blank on the wall. What does she say? What are the blanks?
Is this a trick question? Because I think I know. I think I guess the pop
Mandela?
Culture version of maybe it is. I think it's mirror on the wall, but clearly it's not. Otherwise, because that's way too obvious. It must be something else, right?
It is. It is something else. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's Mandela all over the place, right? Because
you hear it wrong probably way more often than you hear.
Well,
it. Well,
the the Julia Roberts movie was called Mirror Mirror.
Really?
Yeah.
0 for 3, Fire Chief.
Well, and here's the other thing: is my son does a trivia show on this channel, and he also asked this question. So it's Magic Mirror, and she doesn't just do it once. I thought maybe she might do it once, but she does it both times. The first time she asks, and then the second time when she comes back with the pig heart in the in the thing, and she says Magic Mirror on the wall. So yeah, but again, Mandela. It's the same thing. You think that all of your life you've thought it was Mirror Mirror, and it's not. So when she goes to the mirror, okay, maybe this is easier. I'm gonna skip that one. This is easier. What color is the prince's cape?
I want to say it's like a reddish, sort of maroonish color.
You had me at red. Red is the answer. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I got a little trivia fact for you. All the colors from all the cells that were painted were all those colors were mixed by hand by Disney employees. They were custom mixed by hand. So no off-the-shelf cell paint. They actually mixed their own colors.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so that's 4. Here's the last one. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
When the queen is in her throne, she's sitting on her throne.
Oh.
What bird is represented in the throne behind her as part of her throne?
Is it like a? I don't know why, but I have that crow or whatever, like that black bird, but it can't be that, right? I think her pet bird or whatever it is.
The crow is
probably
her
not
minion.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I said the crow is her minion, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's not that.
That is correct. It is not that.
What's another really evil, wicked bird? Who writes these questions? Okay. Scratching you off my Christmas list.
Wait, do I have to send back the bottle of Jack that you sent me? Because I've already drank half of it.
Yeah, you do. I don't know. I give up.
Care Bear actually said it in chat. It's a peacock. You see the way that the throne is. Now this is an up close version. You do get to see it, but it's on the thumbnail of the movie. But you actually do get to see it in a larger form in the movie itself. But it's just the fan of a peacock up behind her. So,
jeez.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
that's pretty weak. Honestly, that's pretty weak.
You think it's a pretty weak question, or you think it's pretty weak?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty weak question. Yeah, no,
the thing that was on the thumbnail is the thing that you couldn't get to save your life, which is the weak part of that. I just need to know.
The question.
The question is, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, and again, it wasn't from that. It was from the. It was from when she was sitting in the throne room and finds out about the heart, and she's not very happy when she finds out that there's a pig heart in there. So let's talk about the characters for a second. Thank you for playing along, Dave. I appreciate you. Thank you for having a great sense of humor about this and not hating me.
You got one.
You did. You basically nailed it. You got one. Yeah. No, for sure. And I try not to make them too difficult. Like if they briefly showed like the address on a mailbox, I don't usually throw that out there unless it's actually something that's there the whole time and we just don't see it, like number 95 on Lightning McQueen.
You did. Or like the license plate you asked me about that's only shown in briefly in cars, like so that blows that out of the water.
Okay.
Rob.
Okay. I'm the worst. Anyway, let's get back to this. So the characters in this, there are quite a few. Obviously, you have the woodland creatures, the Seven Dwarfs, Dopey, Duck, Sneezy, Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Bashful. You've got Snow White, and you've got the Wicked Ween, the Wicked Queen. I can't ever do it without doing it doc-wise. The Wicked Ween. I was actually going to ask you when they were talking about her cooking, what the first thing that he asked for was, and it was apple dumplings. But he like said it like backwards 3 different times when he was doing
apple
that.
Dumpling. So. He said, "Yeah, I do remember that part."
Dapple dumplings, apple dumpling, dapple dumpling. Yeah, but what I was going to say was the Huntsman is obviously one of the characters in this one. I think he's an interesting one, and then you've also got the Magic Mirror as one, and I think did you see Wish, the movie Wish?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I feel like in that they sort of hint around to the fact that the king became the magic mirror because of his dark powers that he was doing, but I don't know about that.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I didn't. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. So I think that they're all very unique characters, but the magic mirror though is one that has grown. I feel like more so than any of the others. Obviously, you see the evil queen. In the parks, and everybody loves seeing her there, and in parades, and she's one of the villainous ones. And if you see like spin-offs like Descendants and things like that, she's always represented as one of the baddies up there with Maleficent.
Hmm.
But with the mirror, like when I went to Tokyo, and I always get to mention Tokyo once in every show I do. When I went to Tokyo in Fantasy Springs, they have this great waterfall with the mirror and rock behind it, so that it looks like the mirror, like it's in the mirror. It's
Oh,
very
that's
cool.
cool. That's very
And
cool.
then there's a new show at Hollywood Studios. Maybe since you've been there, I can't remember the last time you were there, but they added a new
I was
villain
just
show
there
there.
just months ago. Yeah.
Did you see the villain show?
I, I can't remember if we got to see that or not. It was a whirlwind because we had a party of 8, and so we were just kind of running around like
Gotcha.
kids driving most of the. But yeah, I don't think I saw the villain show.
Yeah, it was. It's down on Sunset Boulevard, over past Rock and Roller Coaster, where it used to be Lightning McQueen, and it's a villain show, and it's hosted by the Magic Mirror. So again, the idea that he as a character has kind of grown. We see him in Fantasmic. I think that that's kind of a cool thing, and so these have become pieces of like Americana, for lack of a better term there. And
Mhm.
honestly, you know, they're all huge and stand out, and the fact that they came from here, I feel like makes this like sort of the quintessential Disney movie. And so when we talk about Disney being like, it all started with a mouse, it almost really feels like it started with Snow White. This is what
Yeah,
started the animation, started then brought money back in, that created more movies, that helped him to create Disneyland, Disney World, all of those things, create the empire. So I feel like, Mickey was the
yeah,
kickstart, but I feel like it really started rolling because this was also the impossible dream that he made come true. And everybody was like, well, if he can do that, what else can he do? Like maybe we
yeah,
shouldn't discount him moving forward on that.
yeah.
Animation. How do you feel about the animation in this one? Again, can't be too critical. It kind of like they were inventing it as they went along.
Yeah, I think if you compare it to other things that were done at the time, I mean, it's pretty darn good. I mean, if you look at what's being done today, it looks, kind of ridiculous by comparison. But they didn't, their motion capture was just filming in somebody and then somebody trying to draw that and turn it into animation. So, they were working from reference video. I know for a lot of it. I think the witch was even played by. I saw a picture of it was actually a guy that played the witch,
Yeah.
and they put it like a big nose on him and everything. Anyway, yeah, to me, I think it holds up. I mean, I was surprised about how good it was. There's certainly you're not going to be impressed with the realism of it, but they really do capture the emotion of the characters. I think with the way they're animated.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of them like the stuff that we see of Snow and the Prince early on, where I'm like they're like
It's a little,
we're
soft.
struggling a little. Yeah, we're struggling a little, but but I do think that the animals are amazing, and again, they probably were pretty good at doing animals. People are hard. People are hard to do.
Yeah.
Um, the backgrounds I think were beautiful. I mean, and these are things. These
Yes.
were artists. These were actual. I mean, these are true artists that were making these things. Um, I think that there was a little bit of overacting in the characters. Like my wife noted how like when Snow White was like running through the woods, it seemed a little over the top. But again, I mean that's what they were doing, right? Is they were trying to they're really delving into making people look like people, having done very little of that up until this point.
The reference video they did for that, she was a dancer, So she was not an actress. They said she was just, but she was trying to act it out, and it was based on like her movements. That's why like so much of Snow White's movements are sort of very rhythmic and smooth. And when they show her dancing, um, with the dwarfs and everything, all that is very very elegant, but all of it just feels like you're watching a dancer than an actress.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But like uh, focus, depth, focus,
Yeah.
the elements of water and wind, her
Hmm.
hair, like all of those things. Again, 1937, they were just they were
Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah.
And the idea of this being, if you think about a flip book and like just cells on top of each other to create the animation. Obviously, this is what they were doing at the time. They were making cartoons, but it's pretty amazing that they did what they did and how they did it. Honestly, and again, I feel like it stands up. When I was looking at this scene with like the trees and the leaves and then like her running through the woods and again the depth of all of that, it and
Hmm.
the camera angles and it's all kind of funky. It was I think it's really well done. And again, I feel like to your point, or I think you said this first, that it stands up. It does stand the test of time. The animation
Hmm.
that's there.
Yeah, I think so.
So again, casting wise, the voices are they are what they are. They weren't anybody hugely famous. I don't think. I think did we? I was talking to somebody, and I can't remember who when we were talking about one movie, and I can't remember which one, where they actually started bringing in like famous people for the first time because it wasn't a thing that they used to do. And now, like, you can't do an animated movie really if you don't bring in
Right.
somebody like that's kind of a name. It feels like even the new Cat in the Hat movie with Bill Hader that's coming out. They just drop all the names all over the screen. It's like, look at all these people that are famous that are going to be in this movie. Which, by the way, I love Bill Hader as that Cat in the Hat. I think that's a great move, and that animation looked very bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I think they started doing some of that in the 1960s, but really, that to me, that's kind of more of a 90s thing where the names they were really bringing in big names and not just talented singers and talented actors and that sort of thing. I always think of Jungle Book. There's and that whole sort of revival that happened around the 1960s of doing this sort of the jazz based animation and how all the great jazz musicians that were a part of those things.
Yeah. I think it was maybe the Jungle Book where they were talking about the people they brought in for that one.
Yeah.
That might have been where it started. But um, yeah. So we talked about animation. We talked about the voices a little bit. We talked about the music. The kind of the how important this movie was not only to the evolution of animation but to the Walt Disney Company's birth. Really, all of those things were huge, and we see a huge aftermath in that now in the parks. And we talked about that a little bit, but you've got like the Enchanted Wish was updated at Disneyland. There's huge topiaries and a meet and greet in Germany at Epcot. You've got they closed down the Scary Adventures in Magic Kingdom, but they created the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is a great. I mean, it is still one of the most popular attractions to the point where it's expensive to get a lightning lane. You have to do a paid lightning lane for it. Um,
One of my
so
favorites
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah, and like as I'm watching that movie and I see the vultures in there, and then I remember the vultures that they brought out of the ride and they have at the top of the hill as you're going up.
Mhm.
It's cool to see that kind of stuff. And then we also have there's statues at Disneyland. I don't know if you saw that they were gifts to Walt, the statue of Snow White and
Yeah,
Seven
yeah, yeah,
Dwarfs.
yeah,
So
yeah. The
that was a
ones where
thing.
like Snow White was too short. They
So
make
they
to
put
make
her,
Snow White the same size as the dwarves. Yeah.
yeah. So they put her up on the hill to make the
Yep.
perspective, because that's what they do, right? So
Yep.
yeah, and it's really neat to see that kind of, like I was talking about at the Fantasy Springs, the rock work with the magic mirror. So and then we'll
Hmm.
see how much of that they bring to the Villains Land. I know we're probably going to see something Maleficent in Villains Land. Is there something Snow White you'd want to see in there, like a scary forest or something that they would put in there?
I don't know. That wouldn't be the top of my list for villains I want to see in Villains Land, and I'm not sure what that actually looks like now that I think about it. I love the villain shows. It's the things they do around Halloween. So I feel like for me, they can't almost do no wrong. I love when Disney pushes kind of to the edge of what sort of the really sweet part of Disney, and they kind of get out of that and let themselves be a little bad for once in a while.
Let them be bad, yeah. Speaking of bad, the villain in this one basically slips and falls.
Yeah,
I was thinking
yeah,
about that, like when you look at other villains and how they were taken down. A lot of them are taken down by princes. If you think about Eric running the boat into Ursula, and sorry if these are spoilers for you, Dave. I don't know, but when when Eric takes the boat into Ursula, when Philip fights Maleficent, when the spirits even come and get the Shadow Man and pull him back in, there's somebody who is responsible for their demise. In this one, there's lightning flash, the rock cracks, and she falls to her death.
yeah.
I mean, maybe that's by design. Maybe we don't want to see these seven little men murder her because that's what they were ready to do.
And right, and look, I don't know that there's any character in the movie that you want to see murder her. So it almost has to happen that way. So it makes sense as a storytelling decision, and considering Walt wasn't dumb. He knew this was targeted towards kids. He didn't want to have some traumatic event at the end
Right.
that scarred kids forever. Probably not a good thing for the future of the Disney company.
No,
Um,
that's true.
so it was probably the right decision, but it didn't feel like a huge emotional payoff to see her kind of like, whoa, shit.
Exactly. I was looking at this, and Benjamin and Chad said Clayton gets brutally hung by vines in Tarzan. Um, so yeah, and then and then David Lung said, "Spoiler alert! I guess I've ruined too many movies that he hasn't gotten a chance to watch yet. Sorry about that one." The other trope about movies with kids movies or kids stories is absent parents. We don't really get a vibe from this as to what happened to her parents necessarily. Whereas like in Cinderella, we know that her father remarries and then dies. We know what happened to Mufasa. We know what happened to Bambi's mom. Like all of those things are traumatic events that happen. I guess the most traumatic event that happens here is when the queen's like, you know, you're done, girly. We're gonna send the huntsman after you. They expound upon that in the live action version, but I'm not going to touch the live action version. I don't think with a 10-foot pole because I don't think anybody wants to talk about that one. But and it's interesting. It took so long for them through their live action catalog to get to the live action one, but at the same time, this story has been retold. We mentioned Mirror Mirror. There was Snow White and the Huntsman. With Thor. Why am I forgetting Chris Hemsworth? And then you've got just other tellings that are out there. There's silly tellings of it. There's Descendants and things like that. So there are a lot of tellings. There was also a lot of the like Once Upon a Time. Did you watch that TV show? I assume.
I've watched this occasionally. It wasn't one that I watched every week.
Yeah, where Regina was the evil queen. Again, spoiler alert. Sorry. And then you've got Snow White, who then ends up being Judy Hopps. So yeah, there's a lot of things that happen in these 83 minutes, and it is the blueprint for everything that follows. I think he tried to stay in the long form game until he ran out of resources, and then they did a bunch of the anthology movies where they would take a bunch of shorts and stitch them together and make a full movie, like Make Mine Music, Melody Time, Fun and Fancy Free, the Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Those movies are all like just stitched together of stories rather than being one full-length animated feature. But then they got back into that, and then Walt passed, and then they did a whole bunch, and then the Renaissance that we know of with the Little Mermaid, and they've just kind of like ebbed and flowed from there. Sometimes you get a Zootopia 2, and sometimes you get a Strange World. You never know what's going to happen. I didn't really get into the crux of this movie because everybody knows the story, and I think we talked about the story a little bit. girl runs away from her evil stepmother who wants to kill her. She runs into the woods and finds some animals, and they help her break into these poor men's house. Once they get into the house, she takes over their lives for a little bit, bosses them around. Then, they end up trying to help save her life. It's too late, and here comes the prince and kisses her, and they live happily ever after in the sky, basically, is where they walk off
I mean,
to.
but like she does boss them around, but it's after she kind of does her womanly duties. So she comes in there and she starts
Whoa, 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 whoa.
cleaning,
No, no,
she's
no, no, no,
cooking,
no.
and like
Bail, 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 bail. Pull the ripcord. All right. Anyway, anything else you want to talk about on this before we give our final thoughts on this one, Dave?
no, I mean, I did really enjoy the movie. It was nice kind of sitting through it all, in one sitting. And I think that one thing I didn't mention that stood out to me is it felt like going back to the music thing, like that so much of the good music was sort of front loaded into the movie that most of the back half of the movie didn't have that much great music. So, just
Well,
an
that's where
observation.
Act 3 is where the action happens, man.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Yep.
think about what you want to
Fair
say
enough.
as your
Fair
final
enough.
thoughts on this movie, but I do
Okay.
want to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. This is our first look on the plus side of the year. Park Adventurers Club. We've been doing this for 9 months now. Thank you guys, everyone who is part of Park Adventurers Club, who comes and watches the shows. And please tell more people, tell a friend, subscribe to the channel. We want to build this thing up. We've got a lot of other ideas coming this year. I can't not think of shows we want to do this. And so we've got our schedule coming up here. So this past Sunday was our first live park show again, the Park Adventurers Club. We do that every Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. This week we talked about collections and all of the weird stuff we as Disney folks collect, and it was a lot of fun to have that conversation. Tonight, this is what you're talking about, Snow White, 1937. This Friday, we're going to do a Chrome card box break. Me and Patrick Hackett are going to open a bunch of Chrome cards that we got, some Star Wars ones, some Marvel ones, some Disney ones. Come join us Friday night. Hang out. We'll just be hanging out, breaking boxes, cracking cards, cracking packs. It'll be fun. And then Sunday night, we are back with the Park Adventures Club once more. And then next Wednesday night, I don't know. I need to get somebody cornered into doing a review show with me. I think Dave's going to probably need a breather after this one because he seemed a little frustrated with me about the trivia. That's fine, but Dave, I hope you come back and you'll do another one with me sometime soon. And you pick it. You tell me which one you want to do, and we'll do it, and we'll have a lot of fun with it because it's always great talking to you and getting your insight on this thing. But my friend, now is the time. Now is the best time because I get to say, all right, Dave, somebody knows that you are the Disney fanatic that you are. And they're like, hey, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I haven't seen that in forever, or maybe I've never seen it, and I see it's on Disney Plus. And I guess the question that I would ask is, Dave, would you recommend this movie?
I would only recommend it if you can truly watch it and appreciate it for the historical significance and the nostalgia of it. I think as a movie from a modern viewpoint, it's probably not the best storytelling. I mean, I think they kind of missed some beats on some storytelling things that they could have gone into just about the relationship between the Queen and Snow White and kind of what happened to sort of the falling out. But I think it's a good movie. I don't think if you're not a Disney fan, you're probably not going to go in and as your first Disney movie and say, "Yeah, this is fantastic, the best of the best from Disney." But it's hard to deny how important Snow White was, and I think that's why I really enjoy it. It was really a monumental undertaking for Walt, and it was so risky. And like was said, it was during the Great Depression. He literally mortgaged everything he had to make this happen. It was the ultimate risk. It could have ruined him. It could have been the end of Disney, and he kept going. And as somebody I'm a business owner myself, and I look at somebody like that, and when I'm feeling kind of down about how things are going, I remember guys like him that are willing to risk it all and put everything they have, with their heart and soul, into a project and see it through. And I got a lot of respect for that. So anyway, I know that's a more philosophical answer you're probably looking for, but that's my opinion on Snow White.
Yeah, I do want to share some thoughts I have with you about Walt Disney in general, but I will say for me personally, I would recommend it because I do think it is quintessential must watch if you're going to Disney, if you are a Disney Parks fan, my son is taking some of his friends in March to Disney World, and he's leading the pack. So he has like made a playlist for them of like, you cannot go until you watch all of these movies, because he wants them to appreciate all the things that they're going to see. And it's such an, it's such a sort of an IP driven experience anymore. And maybe it was from the beginning as well, but where if you don't know the story, you can't appreciate as much. You can appreciate it, but you can't appreciate it as much to see those things come alive in the parks as you do. And that's what we love about going to the Disney parks and being able to kind of experience these things, sometimes nostalgic, and sometimes, new experiences as we go. But I think that the animation is there. I think, like you said so well, the history of this movie, just the level of risk that was involved, and the fact that this movie meant so much to Walt and the company in general, that it was such a risk that he was so determined to make it happen. There's the Imagineering story about how he, forced himself into the theme park business and brought everybody else kicking and screaming. And there's, the Boys documentary, which is about the Sherman brothers and, their plight and the things that they did. There should be one, and there's Waking Sleeping Beauty as well. But I think that there should be more of maybe Leslie Iwerks gets involved and does something where it's just really about all that went behind the making of this movie. You can see pieces of it. There's pieces of it in the Imagineering story. There's pieces of it everywhere, but I would love to kind of just dive down even further into it. We're doing a little bit of it here, but there's so much information about it. And like I said, I don't know of any other movie that was so pivotal in the making of it that it meant this much. We watch a lot of making ofs with like on DVDs and things like that. And by the way, the digital extras on this are nothing. It's garbage. But
really.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, there are some extras in here. There's the Disney's first feature, the making of Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, but it's kind of a puff piece. And then there's like it's a 4 minutes here, 47 seconds there. There's not too much on it. So if you want to check it out, there is that 34-minute and the 31-minute feature on here. But I feel like that with this movie and as special and as epic as this was to the company, that should be there should be more here. And I know that there's more out there. But to the point you were making about Walt, I think that I love the history of the company and the man so much that it's not just about the movies, it's not just about the parks, but it's just about the whole process, how he became who he was. And you think about great men like Jim Henson, George Lucas, these guys who were trailblazers and like looking for the next one, who is that person, moving forward. And again, because you're a dedicated Swiftie, maybe it's Taylor Swift. I don't know.
To me, it's there's somebody out there right now that's getting told that they don't have what it takes to make it, and that's the person.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and the guile to continue to push anyway. Yep. Is what set everybody else apart. So thank you, my friend, for doing this one. I appreciate you. Hopefully you guys will leave your comments after the fact. Let us know what you thought about it. Again, thank you for everybody that watched along. I do want to give one final shout out to our pack. That is our Park Adventurers Club. That is our Patreon. If you want to get into our Discord and hang out with us, go to patreon.com/GoPack. Special shout out to our Zebra, Mezzanine, and Treasure Room supporters. We appreciate you guys for helping us do what we do. And thank you so much for your support and for your community. We appreciate all of you guys. And I appreciate you, Dave, for taking your time and hanging out with me and doing this. And hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime soon.
Yep.
You're like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great week. Hopefully we'll see you Friday night or Sunday night on the Park Adventures Club or next Wednesday night for a look on the plus side. Have a good one.